Welcome everybody to the channel. AirborneErnesto here. Checking out a game that just launched October 12th, 2022. It's called Stardeus or Stardeus. I call it Stardeus because I'm guessing it's like, Deus Ex. Early access. There is a free demo available. I have not downloaded the demo or tried it, so I'm not sure how far along you can actually play in that sense. The game right now is $29.99 in early access. I went ahead and picked that up. This is not sponsored. I bought it myself, so I'm just going to give you a little brief overview of the game, my thoughts so far. There are some small things that I have issues with, but overall it's an awesome game. It's similar to Space Haven, which if you haven't seen that video, just go to my channel and check that video out. It's between that and I would say maybe like RimWorld-esque. So let's go and check it out. There's not a lot of options as far as video and stuff like that. I run a 2K monitor with 165 Hertz refresh. I do recommend that you turn on VSync, however, because the timing is linked to the frame rate. So I'll just go ahead and make sure that that's set correctly. Other than that, I'm going to go ahead and show you a loaded version of a game that I've been playing for a few hours. So this is kind of what it looks like. This is why it reminds me of Space Haven. And then the effects, the graphics are kind of RimWorldy. So this is set in space. Earth has been essentially destroyed, and you start off with this little pod here that releases humans that are coming out of cryo sleep, essentially. And all you start with are these little drones, and they have to complete tasks to ensure that this stays powered, so that those that are in here don't die, essentially. So cryo stability, it's just the life support. It releases a character, looks like every couple days, and you can set this to change. Advanced life support will keep them longer, essentially. I know that this is a little confusing. It was confusing for me too, so one of my first complaints is the tutorial for this game is not great. It's a bunch of pop-ups. You can even see here the event log. There are just a lot of events all the time popping up. And if you're not used to it, a lot of things pop up over and over again that you might not be able to keep up with. So, I just wanted to show you what mid-game might look like. But this is a somewhat stable spaceship build here. So we can go to our inventory. We've got some function key overlays that you can go through here. So temperature, if you hover over, it's similar to RimWorld. This room is a little warm, not too bad. Most of my little space heaters are set to 71 degrees, but we have some machinery that also give off heat. So you have to be wary of that. And then my main area here is still pretty cold. And that's just because I don't have a whole lot going out here. Your survivors are able to wear spacesuits and go into areas that they normally would not be able to go. And it's a little difficult. The game can be a little difficult. As you can see, these bodies here are raiders that had a drop pod and came into our ship. And we attacked them and defeated them. You can get a extractor, essentially, and throw those guys in there and get breakdown materials from them, but I haven't built that yet. Solar panels and electricity are one of the more difficult things to control in the game. That's going to be essential to play this game and survive, is to have a well-insulated spaceship as well as maintaining an electrical budget that is going to keep your batteries charged and keep your cryo sleep pods well powered. Characters will be released and woken up whether you like it or not. So you can click on the stasis array here and it'll give you a timer for the next wake up. And like I said, you have to plan accordingly because they're going to wake up from this location. And if the room is not livable, they can almost instantly die, especially if the temperature is, as in space in a vacuum, negative almost 460 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's not going to work. Your computer, this is your main computer here. This is what does all of the work, all of the research. If you hit your T key, I believe, this is the research tree here. And if we zoom in here, you'll see that it requires a certain amount of electricity every 24 hours. That's how many kilowatts it's going to consume. And then the amount of memory modules and storage. So if you look over here, you're going to have to build these memory modules to be able to handle the amount of research that you're going to have, as well as your disk modules and memory. Off in the background, if you hit your M key, you can see that I've moved to a planet. There are tons of planets in the area, but once you move by clicking an area on the map and hitting move to location, you can get up to these planets and actually run mining expeditions by clicking on your shuttle here, entering a planet, selecting your mining crew, and then hitting launch expedition. And that will have them go down and collect any resources that this planet may have. And as you can see again, there's a bunch of pop-ups coming up here. So as you can see, they're mining crude oil right now. They'll bring that back up to the ship, and then you can use those resources in any type of refineries that you have to possibly make fuel for your matter reactors. So down the screen, you're going to see that we have a random event. It's a meteoroid shower. These are smaller ones, but they will come in and blast your ship. And I am playing on the intended mode, which is you cannot load from a saved game. Only your last save when you exit the game. So this game can go wrong almost immediately. I mean, you might have everything figured out. Electrical, temperature, oxygen, all that stuff. And then you get a big meteor strike on a major section of your ship, and this whole area, for example, could be blown to bits, create a vacuum, and pretty much murder everyone inside of the ship. Similar to RimWorld, the crafting style is the same, so you can break down products, build storage areas, you can connect your electrical devices with the E key, and everything has a range and amount of items that can be connected to it. So you can see here I have some ground outlets that are connected to these thrusters. The amount of thrusters that you have does change the speed in which your ship will travel on the main map, which is here. It looks like we have a trade ship here that just showed up. So it's another example of something you can click. So trade ships will show up time to time. Oh, here comes some meteors. So as you can see, there's a perfect example. Just destroyed my stasis, and all of these people were released, and they are most likely going to perish now. Our oxygen levels are going to rapidly decrease from this vacuum that occurs. Temperature. Let's see, go to temperature. We still have some heating, but now we're just going to have a spam effect of people dying. So this is actually a perfect example of what can happen during, in this case, a simple meteor shower. All these people were just released at once. I've actually never had that happen. I think we had somewhere in the realm of a couple of hundred survivors at one point. Yep, 237 beings now. So we released a bunch of corgis, a bunch of pets, and then a ton of survivors. In this instance, we would not be able to continue this playthrough just because my food output in no way is going to be able to keep up with this. So on the repair tab, like I was saying earlier, it highlights in red. You can go ahead and select those, and then your bots or your drones are going to go through and repair what's there. I guess I can show you the build menu too. You can hit B or right click, go to structures, and in this case I would rebuild flooring, and the drones will complete that task as well. But yeah, well, this is a perfect example of what happens, and this is going to save my game, so this playthrough is pretty much dead now, just because I decided to show you guys the game, so thank me for that later. Everyone's going to starve to death and die. So I'm going to go ahead and start a new game so that you can check out what a new game looks like. Alright, so we'll select the new game. The basic start is wrecked. That's going to be what I would suggest playing on your first playthrough. But on the wrecked one, you can choose story generator, which is similar to RimWorld, where you get to choose how often events occur, that type of stuff. So you can go to balanced. Change the name of your ship, so we'll do Deep Zeus, for example, and set in a seed. It does have a modifier section where you can go in and disable combat to go peaceful. Oh yeah, so your devices and equipment do wear over time. You can disable that here if you'd like to. No reload, I usually have that on. It's so that when events happen, obviously you can't go back and just keep reloading saves. Beginner quests, obviously don't skip that on your first try. Like I said, the tutorial is not that great, but I've played plenty of games like this and it still was a little confusing in the beginning. So go ahead and apply that and start the game. Alright, so when you load in, this is what's going to happen. You're going to have an option to play the tutorial or not. You guys can give your feedback on whether you like the tutorial or not. I was not a huge fan, so I'm going to go ahead and skip it. So here's another pop-up. This is what I'm kind of was describing earlier. So you can't really exit out of this, so you have to show quests, and then it gives you a quest, and then you can exit out of it. But some of the UI just is funky, and you'll get pop-ups at times where it's not very useful. So as you can see, this is a standard size map. I can zoom out quite a bit here. And the beginning location is a wreck ship. So you're going to see a ton of stuff kind of scattered throughout. A few rooms. And one thing I do like about this game is you can build a special item, which I don't have access to right now. But it allows you to get a winch and actually pull those ships, the pieces of those ships, back to your main ship. Winch. There it is. We'll add to queue. And our computer does have enough memory, it looks like, to already start researching this. If the resources are available, your drones will go out and get those resources, whether they are in your storage or not, which is useful. And hitting the E key again, it allows you to connect devices. I don't really need to connect the air vent right now, because as you can see, that's not really going to do us any good. One thing to keep in mind, when you pull with the winch, it's going to pull the lighter or smaller object to the larger object. So what we're probably going to end up having to do is creating the winch over here and then setting anchor points up on the smaller sections and pulling it to the main larger area here. First and foremost, you're going to want to get electricity to the stasis array here. Every few minutes, it's going to be releasing a survivor, and in its current state, it's not going to survive. So if we wanted to, before we start moving all of these items back to this location, we can actually go in and build a matter reactor in this room. And we can relocate objects that are scattered throughout this area. So I would suggest taking this heater, for example. We can relocate it to this room. We can relocate this electrical connector to the room as well. So really we have energy. We're about to have a heater in that room. Lastly, we just need an oxygen generator, which we can't do at this time because we don't have the research. But we can search for it. The search button is going to be a huge help to you in this menu because it's not crazy big, but if you're looking for specific items, you're not going to go through and look one by one, so I suggest using that search function. But you'll see these bots start to move stuff around, and since we've made this matter reactor, we can actually go in. It does not automatically use a fuel, so you'll have to go into your fuel here And steel plates are pretty easy to get, and it's also what we have the most of, so I'm going to go ahead and select that. And your drones will fill that with the fuel that it burns, and as you can see, the output of this is 20 kilowatts, and that's actually going to increase the speed at which we can research. This requires 25 kilowatts. You can research with lower wattage, however, it's going to increase the time left that it takes to research that. Also, all your drones have skills. If you go to their skills tab, you can see level of construction is 1 of 9, and the rest of them here. So if we click on these, it looks like right now this construction requires level 3. So none of our floating drones are going to be able to build this matter reactor over here. What we're going to have to do is build some type of bridgeway, because this is our other builder here who can build it. But as you can see, he is not an aerial device, so we're going to have to find a way to get him bridged across to the main area to build that. Charge stations, you will need charge stations for your drones. So once he builds that, you'll have to connect to the electrical port here. But this bar here is their battery. So once we connect that, you'll see that our drones will go over and we've completed a quest here. You want to have these throughout your ship so that the drones have access to recharge. There's also one that you'll be able to build, which is a repair station, which it looks like we have access to now, so we'll go ahead and build one of those. There's different floors. You can do reinforced floors, which obviously will withstand meteors a little better. And then the frame, so walls can't be built unless it's on some type of flooring or frame. The frame will not insulate the room, so if I set a frame here and we had walls around it, this would still create a vacuum into space, which can be useful for the computer, for example. If you didn't want the computer to offload a bunch of heat into the room, you could put a frame and it'll stay cool that way. That way you don't have to build heat sinks. So it looks like this area would line up somewhat decently back here. So I'm going to go ahead and build a winch hook right here. And we will build a winch anchor over here. We'll try to get it in line here so that it can pull correctly. That way it'll pull straight back this way. We are going to have some issues of it running into this. But you can actually deconstruct with your X key or this menu here. And we'll go ahead and deconstruct this flooring so it doesn't interfere. So what we're going to do is we're going to build some cheap flooring to come across here. That will allow our bot that has the proper constructing skill to get across here and actually help us complete some of that construction that we need done. We can get this room up and running. As you can see, it already released one person here, and she is DED dead. Alright, so let's run this in a series. On the way across here to there. You also could probably connect that to here as well. There we go. So now we have full connection. All these rooms are back to this main computer here. And we can go in. We'll have to connect this here as well. Oh, actually need to repair this. So items won't function until they're repaired. So that's going to be an issue as well. And here's another one. Pop-ups galore. We completed a quest. You have to hit show quests and then remove it. Relocate this to here as well. Okay, so now we have all this stuff powered up. Change this quick. You can see our vent is open. You do have to go to your installation overlay if you want a quick view of which vents are open. So we're going to close these. The stasis array does produce heat and oxygen, and with that now we can see all green around here, so it is pressurized. And we have to show quest, delete And your drones can level up their constructing skill, for example. As well as these humans, they actually are a workforce. So if they're in an area where they can produce food and use machinery and stuff like that, they can assist. There's a difference between doors and airlocks. The airlocks, obviously, you can pass through without the atmosphere creating a vacuum. The doors will not, but it doesn't do enough to essentially kill the temperature or anything like that right away. So you have a few seconds when people go through the door to where that won't be an issue. Here's an upgrade component here. So this is a reactor efficiency, and we can actually use that to, for example, in this reactor, once we connect a fuel source, we can hit upgrade, install, and they will go grab that efficiency upgrade and install it into this device. So there's not actually a connection between these items. It's just if one section has the winch hook and one section has the anchor, when you hit reel in, it'll give you options of what's connected. So if we zoom out here and go ahead and hit reel in, it's going to make sure you want to verify that if there's anything in between, you know, bad stuff can happen. For the most part, besides this free floaty one here, for the most part we should be okay, as long as there's not any objects that are just kind of floating out in the ether here. So we can go ahead, we'll attempt to reel it in and see what happens. Confirm. As you can see, the whole ship is moving back here, and its first connecting point, or once it's in range, it'll make it like this. We did have a storage capsule that landed. I always suggest pulling these into an area that has heat, electric, and all that stuff, because a survivor might actually be inside this pod, and if you open it out in space, obviously they're not going to survive. So we hit open capsule. One of our drones or humans will come over here and open it. So it looks like we got some transistors, which we'll need in the future, and then we can disassemble this pod and use those items for other things in the future. So yeah, there's just a brief overview of the game. I know I didn't show you much, but eventually what you're going to end up having to do, and you could fly this ship as is. It's all connected now. If I went in and built floors, for example, and walls, I could get this ship worthy of travel. But they'll use the equipment or the items around them to build. So yeah, that's just a brief overview of the game. I didn't show you much. If people are interested in it, I would get into more detail. But at the moment, I just wanted to show you kind of my thoughts on some of the stuff. Like I said, big gripe, tutorial, pop-ups, not great. As far as I can tell, there's not a way. You can hit ignore on some items so they don't pop back up, but others, it kind of just takes over the real estate of your screen. If you guys are interested in more of this gameplay, go ahead and leave comments below, and maybe I'll do like a tutorial to get you started, essentially. You know, what steps do you need to take to have a balance where you have your electric, your heat, and your oxygen all good to go before you start your space travel. I can't open the map in this mode, obviously, because I don't have the computer, the navigation panel. That's why you can't see that. Lastly, the game is for sale, like I mentioned earlier, $29.99 in early access. My opinions on that might be a little over what it's worth. I think the game will flesh out to be well worth $29.99 rather. But at the moment, I would say $14.99 would probably be a reasonable asking price for its current state. Maybe even $19.99. But that's the risk that you take with early access. The game is very playable. I don't see any issues. I haven't had any crashes, and I've played for somewhere probably close to 7-ish hours, 7 to 10 hours, and I have not run into any performance issues or anything like that. The only thing is obviously the VSync issue, where it is direct connected to frames based on how fast the time moves. So you will have to have VSync enabled, at least in the meantime. So yeah, those are my thoughts. If you guys want to see additional gameplay or tutorials, go ahead and leave a comment below on what you are interested in taking a look at. I just wanted to kind of debut the game. I know we're a couple days late, but I think it's a good pick. I would recommend the title if you are into management, colony sims, that type of stuff. Definitely worthwhile. Other than that, thanks for joining me today. Make sure to subscribe to get updates on later videos, and I will see you next time.